Compromise and Concession. By Ogden Kraut. First printing, 1977. Let not that which I have appointed be polluted by mine enemies, by the consent of those who call themselves after my name, for this is a very sore and grievous sin against me, and against my people. Doc. and Cov. 101:97-98. Truth and error, good and evil, cannot be reconciled. Joseph Smith. TPJS, page 326. Human life is a record of experience and of principles in action, but surely if we look to the past for its legacies of experimental wisdom, we cannot discover more practical lessons on truth and holiness than are to be found in the lives and deaths of those who have formed the noble army of martyrs. The heathen philosopher thought that there was no sublimer sight for heaven or earth than a great man struggling with adversity, but there is a greater emphasis in this reflection, if we apply it to the noble victory of the Christian martyr over the assaults of the world, the flesh, and the devil. In him we behold a spirit upheld, not by the motives of vanity, self-sufficiency, or indifference, but by the simple power of truth. We witness a soul so under the influence of good, that evil, even in its most cruel form, cannot dim its beauty, but serves as a contrast to heighten its luster. Here is self-sacrifice, springing not from pride, but from humility, founded not upon ignorant prejudice, but upon a faith based upon conviction, arising not from hatred or contempt for man, but from the love of God. Truly theirs was the victory that overcame the world, even their faith, a faith which, accepting the future as a true inheritance, enabled them to give up for Christ's sake houses and lands, children and relationships, yea, and their own lives also, rather than be false to their conscience and their God. The history of Christian martyrdom is, in fact, the history of Christianity itself, for it is in the arena, at the stake, and in the dungeon, that the religion of Christ has won its most glorious triumphs. Fox's Book of Martyrs, page 5. Preface. The following stories and incidents represent only a small portion of such accounts from out of the pages of secular and ecclesiastical history. They illustrate the conflicts and pressures between men and principles. Through the pains of torture, political persuasions, or by simply following other men, these stories reflect the values men place on their faith. These brief sketches portray the lives of good men and bad and the conflict between them. It reveals the nature and source of the pressures that often extract a compromise or a concession from men. Those who concede, abjure, or relinquish to the demands of others are not necessarily bad men. Many good men have confessed, recanted, or signed statements against their will. Some were deceived or forced beyond their power to resist, while a few others are always willing to concede by renouncing the principles of their faith. But it is in the fire of adversity that a man's spiritual mettle or the convictions of a man's faith are proved. The purpose of this historical vignette is meant to illustrate the penalties and the futility of compromising gospel principles. The past is filled with thousands upon thousands of pages that reflect the courage or the cowardice of men. But valiancy or failure, loyalty or disloyalty, are the results and the reasons for opposition. It is necessary that there be a test of men's faith. Their triumph or their failure can be an important lesson for others who may have to tread in their footsteps. This is the reason for written history. One man's life may become the most valuable lesson in the life of another. It is the wish of the author that this book will promote faith and courage in those who read it, so they may not make compromises or concessions in the gospel of Jesus Christ. The author.